Hello beautiful people, I'm Red and this is my guide to the EcoDome Aldani. I made a cheat sheet similar to the Wowhead Raid cheat sheet for the bosses. And then I also have a healer spreadsheet for all of the dungeons. Links are in the description. So the first boss is Azhiccar. It's a single target fight with some high priority adds. There's kind of three things to remember. You need it all stacked together so that when the ads spawn, they're going to jump on you and they're going to cast the spell Engorge. So that jumps on people and it does some damage and increases their damage done. So what you don't want to do is be stacked directly on top of everybody, but you want to be kind of loosely stacked close to melee so that the jumps don't hit everyone and the ad doesn't get as much engorge stacks. The second thing is there's a blue circle called Toxic Regurgitation. Toxic Regurgitation goes on 2 targets and it's a pretty big dot, kind of like the Cinderbrew boss. When you get this blue circle on you, you just run out and then get the dot. The last big thing we need to remember is Devour. It happens at 100 energy. And the boss is going to cast for 18 seconds. He's going to be pulling you in. At the same time, he's going to summon some more ads. And if any of those ads are alive at the end of Devour, the boss is going to get a damage amp. But really, as a healer, our job during Devour is to heal. Okay, so the main spell that you're kind of worried about in phase 1 is this blue circle. So the blue circle, it goes on 2 different players, and you want to run out of melee so that people can stack in melee because of the next ability. So he's casting the Shriek spell, and that summons all the ads. The ads are going to come in and jump on people. And this is what I was talking about, you should be stacked, or at least loosely stacked. So you get out with those things, but you need to kill those ads quickly. And the third ability is coming out now. It's Devour at 1 minute. And so this is where you need to use your big healing cooldowns. He also does summon these ads during Devour. So you see the DPS are really focusing on killing those ads, because if he sucks those ads into this giant blue circle, he will eat them. He will devour them, right? And he'll get a damage amp. So the ads died, there's 18 seconds to do it, and there's just quite a lot of healing during this time. So I used Divine Hymn, I used Premonition of Piety, so I used a couple pretty big cooldowns for that. The second boss is this Lizard King boss, and he's riding on his mount, but during the intermission he's going to get off the mount and get stunned with Destabilize, and you can kill them both. Now, during the regular phase, there's kind of 2 things going on. The first thing is Binding Javelin, which is a pink circle, and it's going to go on 2 players and summon a javelin on them. It's kind of like root you to the thing. So at 100 energy, he's going to cast Arcane Blitz, which triggers Arcane Overload, and that's big damage. That's kind of what your main healing cooldown should be used on. He's going to be casting this Arcane Overload until he gets hit by 5 Warp Strikes. Warp Strike is a charge that the little lizard does, and if you run the lizard onto the boss, like so the lizard travels through the boss, once that happens 5 times, he's going to be stunned with Destabilize. So then you have 15 seconds to damage both the boss and the lizard. Okay, so the first mechanic that we need to worry about as a healer is Binding Javelin. It's this pink circle. What we should have done is we should have made a Venn diagram. We should have been closer to each other. Because you see what's going to happen is they're going to go over, kill the Death Knight's Javelin first. And then I'm still taking this ticking damage while the rest of the team, comes over to kill my Javelin. The second thing we need to worry about is Warp Strike. It's just going to charge onto people and it does like an AoE. So you don't really want to be stacked on people during the first phase. And now he's casting Arcane Blitz because he's at 100 energy. So he goes to the center and starts casting Arcane Overload. That's the big damage over time effect that we need to use our healing cooldowns for. And it's not just that big damage over time effect. There's the ticking damage, plus there's all these Warp Strikes. So the Warp Strikes have to go 5 of them through the boss in order to end the Arcane Overload damage. So this is a lot of damage, and it's some random damage, and if people are not careful and are stacked on each other, they're going to get hit by multiple charges and they might die. So look, we just hit the boss with the 5th charge and now he's destabilized. So him and his lizard friend, they're on the ground for 15 seconds of free damage where you don't have to do anything except for do damage. So once you're the healer, as long as people are not dead, you could leave the whole team at 10% health and just do damage for this part of the fight. So do as much damage as you can right here and then heal people up to full after this damage is over. Okay, so the third boss is Soul-Scribe. It's a rot encounter where there's a huge amount of almost constant ticking damage, and then there's a little bit of burst healing, but it's really not too complicated once you understand the ability cycle and what they do. So there is one main ability, Whispers of Fate, that takes your soul out of your body and you have to go retrieve your soul before you get hit. There's a second ability, Wounded Fate. If you get hit by any of the other mechanics on the right here, then you will get the Wounded Fate dot for 8 seconds and it does quite a bit of damage. It also gives you a haste debuff. Also, if your soul, which has been stolen from you by either Whispers of Fate or Splinters of Fate, if your soul gets hit by any of these three mechanics here, then you will also get the Wounded Fate debuff. So you have to collect your soul before it gets hit by one of these abilities on the right. There are three abilities that target your soul. The first is Ceremonial Dagger. It's just a line you have to dodge. Then there's Dread of the Unknown. That's a big pink circle, so you have to collect your soul before the circle hits it. And then the third one is during the intermission. So during the intermission, instead of stealing one soul, he's going to steal 3 souls, and you have to collect all 3 souls before they're hit by the Eternal Weave. So because of this, I think you should be using your big healer cooldowns for the intermission at 100 energy. That happens at a minute, 230, and almost 4 minutes. So the ability cycle is he's going to do the daggers, the circles, the daggers, and then he's going to go get 100 energy and do his triple soul steal. Okay, so 10 seconds into the fight, he's going to do the Whispers of Fate, steal your soul, and cast the daggers. So you got to go collect your soul before the dagger goes off and hits it. Looks like the hunter did not collect his soul, so he's taking the Wounded Fate debuff damage. After that, he's going to do the big circles. Whispers of Fate again, he steals your soul, and then he's casting the Eternal Dread. And so, right here was my soul. I should have collected my soul before this circle goes off. It's not going to go off, so I'm getting this Eternal debuff, and it's an 8-second debuff that does a lot of damage. After that, he'll cast the daggers one more time. Cast the daggers. And then he's going to go get 100 energy and go into intermission. So intermission is Eternal Weave, and it steals 3 of your souls. And what I should have done here is I should have gone and collected the soul that was in the frontal, because you have about 5 seconds for each frontal to go off. So you have to collect your soul before the frontal goes off. And if you don't collect it in time, then your soul will be hit and you'll get that debuff on you. So this is really the hardest part of the fight. I call it the intermission, for lack of a better term. And then once this is over, you have like 15-20 seconds of downtime before he casts his next Whispers of Fate. So yeah, more than likely you're gonna have to deal with 2 Eternal Weaves, and that's a pretty big healing requirement because there's 3 souls for people to get, and odds are, you know, at least 1 or 2 of your players is not going to collect his soul in time. So it's pretty rough, and so I would use probably half of my big cooldowns on the first frontal set, and then the other half of my big cooldowns on the second frontal set. So yeah, it's pretty unlikely you'll get a third frontal set unless the boss is like almost 4 minutes long. Okay, so there's 3 mobs I'm going to talk about that are like the most important trash mobs to know about. The first is this Overgorged Mite. It doesn't look that big, but it is the most dangerous mob in the entire first area. So the way the mechanic works is, you see the Overgorged Mite is casting Gorge. And every single time that goes off, he's going to get a buff. So if he casts Gorge on 3 people, he's going to have 3 stacks of the buff. When the mites die, which they're getting close to dying. So you see, like, everything's dead, but look, there's 5 stacks of this Gorge buff on us, and we're just taking massive damage. So in the first trash area, when the mobs die, you need to be ready to do big healing. The second mob that we need to worry about is this Overcharged Sentinel. So half of his health is a shield, and once the shield runs out, then he's going to start doing massive damage, and he's also going to be applying these puddles on the ground. So let's see, now he's at half health, he's doing Shattered Core, and there's these purple puddles like going under people, and also there's like a lot of ticking damage. So that's really the probably hardest mob to deal with in the second trash area. And in the third trash area, there's this Wastelander Peacekeeper, and that is the most dangerous mob by far in the third area. Everything else is just like sends a bolt at you or something, but this guy's pretty brutal. So what he's about to do is he's about to cast Erratic Ritual, and Erratic Ritual does massive damage. Like, it's just a big HPS check. And there's actually two of these guys right before the last boss. So if you pull them both together, be ready for big healing, because you're gonna get Erratic Ritual twice. So look, we got Erratic Ritual going again, big damage. And yeah, that's really all you need to worry about from a healing standpoint.